to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha.
Good morning to all of you, both seen and unseen. We've just celebrated Remembrance Day, remembering with deep gratitude and offering merit for all those who have died in wars and enabled many of us to be here where we are now today, and making use of those lessons which we learned during those dark days at great cost. We're now facing a challenge that has united people all over the world in excuse me. We're facing a challenge that has united people all over the world in a way that no previous wars have done. This is a challenge without borders. And my topic today is the coronavirus exposé. The reason I chose that word is it came from a conversation I was having with a monk a couple of weeks ago, in which she said that she thought this virus had exposed the network of profound connection that unites us all. So something about that word just caught my attention, because its meaning is to bring to light something that has previously not been visible. And so this recognition of our profound connection has been on my mind these past months, and actually it has been a favorite theme in my own practice and in numerous Dharma talks that I've done. And the thing is that previously I've had to really search to find an example, a story, an anecdote that would really illustrate this moment of connection. But now the papers, the magazines, the internet are full of these stories of people helping and connecting in ways that we really do not remember. And the thing about an expose is, that once we have seen it, we can't be as though we haven't seen it. And this expose is bringing to light the Buddhist teaching and the universal truths underneath them in a very dynamic way. This virus has appeared in the world at a time of great fear, anxiety, suspicion, and polarization. And it has provided the impetus to go beyond that and to recognize our own humanity and our profound interconnection with one another, with animals, with the environment. So the internet is full of stories of people sharing and finding ways of staying connected, even at this time of when we've been given all of these guidelines about distancing. The head of the World Health Organization has changed the phrase from social distancing to physical distancing, because he said that even within the physical distancing, people are being more social than ever. We're forging a new sense of community, says one of our magazines. And a wonderful example of this is a story from down south in Ensenada, in which a fellow was disturbed by reports of wolves and hoarding. And he stood on a street corner with a homemade sign that said, "Share your toilet paper." And drivers honked, And they stopped, and they began to drop off all kinds of supplies, producing an impromptu swap depot for crucial items. So I had to ask myself, what would the response to that have been 6 months ago? Somebody probably would have called the highway patrol. All work is the work of the Buddha, as Reverend Master Jiyu used to tell us. Our mealtime verse reminds us to remember the ways and means by which our food has come. Offering thanks and appreciation each day, Google, this mainstream browser on their homepage, offered everyday cartoons of hearts of thanks to a different group of workers each day: fruit pickers, grocery clerks, delivery people, janitors, truck drivers, exposing this seldom acknowledged web of workers putting in long hours and risking their health in order to help us. And I find myself, calling our local pharmacy and thanking whoever answers the phone for being there to help us out during this time. So this virus is also bringing to light neglected populations, the homeless, the isolated, the elderly, the undocumented workers. The Buddha said, if people knew, as I know, the result of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, even if it was their last morsel. They would not eat without having shared it with someone if there was somebody to share it with. There's been an outpouring of concern and generosity in getting food to people, and all of these stories have been in the news. One of my favorites is about a refuse collection company in Louisville, Kentucky called Hometown Hauling. And Jake Bland is the operations manager, and he's also the one that drives the trucks picking up his customers' trash. An elderly woman on his route hadn't put anything out for 2 weeks, and he got really concerned about her and told his dispatcher, who called the woman and found that the reason that she hadn't put out anything is because she didn't have any food and she hadn't eaten. She was wheelchair bound, 90 years old, and she couldn't get out to get any food. So Jake got a list, a grocery list for her, went to the store, filled up her pantry, and the company paid for it. And then they said they made a vow that they would look in on all the elderly and disabled people on their route. So the very fact that our governments have not adequately addressed these populations has really inspired this kind of action on a local and grassroots level, which is just unprecedented. It's, kind of as though this lockdown itself has kind of freed up a lot of energy to find the innumerable ways to benefit beings. So there isn't going to be one big solution to all of our global problems, but we have been seeing a myriad ways of benefiting beings, and we have seen that no effort is wasted and no offering is too small. One of our scriptures, the Shushogi, tells us that a blade of grass or one coin can cause the arising of good. So it's important to remember that the sewing of masks out of scraps of fabric took place in one person's home. That's the origin of it, in order to help health providers. And it's become really one of the symbols of care and generosity of this pandemic. So we've seen people coming together to find solutions. Competitors have been working together to find treatments and vaccines. Car manufacturers are repurposing their factories to make ventilators. Breweries are converting their alcohol into hand sanitizer.
and donating large quantities of it where it's needed. I have to say, I think of Reverend Master Jiu, who taught us about spiritual and material recycling. I think she would have really smiled at that one. People are working together across political borders. Under the headline, Trading Handguns for Hand Wipes, a current magazine article tells us that the UN Secretary, Antonio Guterres, asked armed groups around the world to call a ceasefire. He said that by continuing to fight, they were aiding the spread of the virus. And the ceasefire also aids the UN humanitarian programs to reach some 100 million people. Many of them are stuck in conflict areas. So people ask, where do we go from here? When this pandemic is over, are we going to go back to doing everything the way we did and forget what we have seen? Isn't that up to us? Actually, it always has been, because there isn't really any evil axis out there. You know, it's just us when we turn ourselves away from our own hearts. There is this phrase that's going around on the internet: don't ask that things go back to normal. Normal is how we got here. So the thing that really caught me in that phrase is the word we. Because as soon as we acknowledge that we ourselves are contributing to the conditions that create suffering, at that very moment we see that we have the power to shift our course. So that is up to us. I wish you a week of peace. Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha.